Hari Hari. A few months ago, I was riding a high in my career, in my work. It's an election year. It was an election year. I work in such an organization. And we had numerous challenges this year. But at the end of the summer, we prevailed. I myself was personally vindicated, so I was riding a huge high. I was validated by my organization and the leadership of my organization, so I was riding an incredible high. And fell off a cliff. The demons of my childhood that I had buried, paved over, constructed a building of my existence upon, would not be denied. They resurrected themselves and reasserted themselves with a vengeance upon my life. Hit an incredible low. I was still dealing with it now. When it first happened, and it happened out of the blue, one bright day, the first week I was incapacitated, mentally incapacitated, emotionally incapacitated, numb, and completely overcome by such demons. I'm not telling you this to be a downer. Quite the contrary. The good news is that it lasted about a week. But I'm telling you all of that because it brings us to today's verse, chapter 2, text 14, wherein Krishna says, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Tolerate. This word, tolerate, is something that we have an unhealthy relationship with, and an unhelpful definition of. We hear oftentimes, particularly in Vaishnava philosophy, this description of being as tolerant as a tree. And that is the visual we get, right? We get the visual of a tree standing in the rain, being struck by lightning, being urinated upon, being defecated upon by animals, being beset by locusts, termites, all kinds of pests, being lived in by birds, being chopped up for firewood by human beings. And we see, oh, we're supposed to stand there and grin and bear it. This is the visual, pardon me, we have of being tolerant as a tree. The problem is that is only half the picture. That is an inaccurate visual. Beneath the surface, the roots of the tree are still questing for moisture, despite what is happening above ground, despite the lightning strikes, despite the urinating, the defecating, the pests, the people cutting its branches. The tree is continuing to quest and search for moisture. That goes on. That continues unabated regardless of what's happening above ground. That is a full understanding, the full recognition of this visual, be as tolerant as a tree. The mission goes on. Questing for moisture continues, regardless of what's happening above ground. But the problem is we don't see that. We either eschew and forgo forgiveness entirely, thinking, oh no, that's for the Babajis. When I'm Jagannath Das Babaji, then I'll try to tolerate. But I'm not at that stage yet. When I'm a pure devotee, then I will do so. But right now I need to forgo tolerance. It's something it's not going to happen. Or on the other hand, we dealing with or having this erroneous idea of being as tolerant as a tree, we try to come up to that erroneous unhealthy marker of tolerance. Unable to do it naturally because it's unrealistic, it's not possible, and then we feel guilty about it, and we then lose self-confidence, self-appreciation, and we spiral down that rabbit hole of self-destructive emotional issues and problems. Oftentimes, these are the two, certainly major, ways we deal with deal with this, our erroneous idea of what tolerance is supposed to be. It is I believe it's the Alcoholics Anonymous. If I'm wrong with that reference, please correct me and put it in the comments below. I believe it's the Alcoholics Anonymous who say, "Dear God, please give me the strength, give me the ability to change those things that I can change. Give me then the strength or the fortitude to accept those things that I cannot change, and then the wisdom to know the difference between the two." That's tolerance. The tree has the ability to do only certain things. It can always quest for moisture. That's what it can do. The lightning strikes, the urination and defecation of dogs and animals, there's nothing a tree can do about it. Absolutely nothing. The tree, for the sake of this example, knows the difference, and it engages in what it can do. It continues on its mission of questing for moisture, despite what's happening above ground. That's tolerance. If we're going to use that visual, that's tolerance. There are two ways of developing. First of all, the importance of tolerance. When we don't get it right and we become guilty because we cannot live up to an erroneous idea of what tolerance is, or we forego tolerance thinking it's for the Babajis, then we miss out on what tolerance actually is. We miss out on the incredible power of tolerance, grit, to be able to remain steady regardless of what is happening in our life, regardless of the ups and downs, regardless of the issues we may be dealing with. So tolerance is a key attribute we need to possess to be successful in any facet of life. So to forgo tolerance is a terrible, terrible choice. To be beset by feelings of guilt because we cannot live to an idea of tolerance that does not exist is also going to cause more harm than good. The point I'm trying to make, the point Krishna is making, he is 3 verses into the Bhagavad Gita. We're chapter 2, text 14. This is the third thing that Krishna has said to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Tolerance. That's how important it is. There's no point in going into the rest of the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita if we have not understood what it means and how to develop and to be tolerant. It is the foundation of everything else upon which we need to build our success in our personal life, relationships, career life, and certainly our spiritual life. Tolerance is the bedrock. How to develop tolerance? 2 things. The first is, you can do it right here on Facebook. Search for Tim Ferriss and fear setting. I came across this a few years ago, but we've always heard, growing up, we were told to face our fears, right? Confront our fears. When Tim Ferriss, when he talks about fear setting, and he provides an exercise to develop the ability to engage in fear setting, it is the exercise he gives is incredibly powerful. Take the time to learn the exercise given by Tim Ferriss regarding fear setting. It will change your life. About a decade ago, I had to deal with the legal system here in the United States. And it was going on for about over 2 years. And I became deeply in debt as I was borrowing large sums of money for lawyers, legal expenses, to try to deal with this issue. And it was dragging on and on and on for over 2 years. When it came to the time, after so many issues and appeals, where the final verdict was going to be given, I was sitting with my lawyer in court, waiting for this to happen. And I was at the lowest point I could possibly be, or certainly almost experienced at that particular point in my life. And I was completely in abject fear and misery as to what this possible verdict could be. I was sitting there, and this was before I had come across Tim Ferriss and fear setting, but as we'd all experience, being chastised by our superiors to face your fears, right? Our father figures in our life. I decided to sit and face the fear. What would happen if the verdict went against me? And for 30 minutes, I sat there and I engaged in a manner of fear setting where, okay, the verdict goes against me. What happens next in my life? What do I do? What am I faced with? Who can I call? How do I set up the things in my life to help me get through what this verdict is going to mean? And it was not simply marinating and worrying about what happens if the verdict goes against me. It was actually planning. And that's why you must, please, go to Tim Ferriss and learn how to fear set. It's actual planning. I was doing this in my mind. I had not encountered Tim Ferriss yet. But I began actually planning what I was going to do the next day, the next week, the next month, and for the next 20 years in my life because of this particular verdict if it went against me. And I kid you not, I'm saying this and I'm sharing this with you because I have firsthand experience of how powerful it is. In 30 minutes, my entire outlook had changed. When the verdict came and was in my favor, thank God, but when the verdict came in my favor, it was actually anticlimactic. It was actually a letdown when the verdict came in my favor because I had done so well or the exercise had enabled me to so successfully face, confront, deal, acknowledge, and embrace what could possibly come my way, that when it didn't come my way, when the verdict was in my favor, I was essentially steady. I was essentially ready for what was going to come either way. It enabled me to confront the issue without being overwhelmed by it. Just like when the demons of my childhood, now they've re-entered my life and will not be denied. For the first week, I was incapacitated, but it was only a week. Not because I'm a great person, absolutely not. No, this is the exercise of fear setting, of tolerance, developing the ability to tolerate. It took only a week until I began to realize, enable myself to deal with and confront these demons of my childhood. And I'm still going through it now. And it changes my ability to then move forward, not be overwhelmed, not be incapacitated. That's tolerance. Despite the lightning strikes, urinating, defecating animals, despite all these things that may come our way, beneath the surface, we still are focused and questing for moisture. Look up Tim Ferriss, learn how to fear set. It will change your life. It will give you the ability to face anything, and I kid you not, anything that comes your way, you will be able to, it doesn't make it easier. Actually, it does make it easier. It doesn't, what it does is it gives you the ability to continue to move forward without being overwhelmed. That's what it does. It gives you the ability to continue to move forward successfully without being overwhelmed. You may have to take detours, you may have to change, absolutely. But you can still move forward and progress personally as a devotee, as a person, as a spouse, in whatever situation or role you're playing, you will still be able to move forward in a healthy manner when you learn how to fear set. The second thing is, well, we have to come to another mentor of mine, Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist in the 30s and 40s. He was Jewish, and he and his family were imprisoned by the Nazis in Auschwitz or Birkenau, wherever it was, I'm not quite sure. And Viktor Frankl, he, as a psychiatrist and having that experience, he recognized that, and he relays this in his book. He wrote a book called In Search of Meaning. He survived the death camps of Nazi Germany, and he went on to pursue and practice psychiatry, and he wrote the book In Search of Meaning. In the book, he describes that those persons in the concentration camps who were unable to find meaning in their situation in the concentration camps, those were the first persons to die, to lose hope and to die emotionally. Once they had died emotionally, their physical death soon followed. Now, this is not to say, I want to make this very important, this is not to say that, only the weak people died off and, this is not giving excuses to the Nazis. Absolutely not. In that, they should have been stronger, they would have survived. That's not what Viktor Frankl was saying. That's certainly not what I'm saying. Viktor Frankl was just observing, and his point was about the opposite, is that those, including himself, who were able to find and identify meaning in the situation in which they were thrust and imprisoned, they were able to survive emotionally. And those who were able to survive emotionally had much greater chances of being physically alive when the Allies came and liberated the camps. That's the point he was trying to make. Not that, something terrible about being weak. That's not his point. Certainly not my point. He talks about meaning. Get the book by Viktor Frankl, In Search of Meaning. Meaning and mission, just like the tree. The tree is standing there. Its mission is to quest for moisture. That never changes, despite all the things that's going on above ground, despite the court cases, despite the demons of our childhood, despite the winter and summer we have to go through, despite the happiness and the misery of career changes. Despite all of that, our mission remains constant: to quest for moisture. Meaning, mission. How to find. I don't like using the word find, discover, uncover. Those are the wrong words when talking about mission. I like to say, and I like to tell people, to write your mission. Because our mission is already, it's right in front of us. It's right in front of us. We simply do not see or recognize it. When we use terminology like find, discover, it gives the connotation of questing, of searching, and it's very difficult, and I missed it. It's right in front of us. The only thing we need to do is to see it, to recognize it, which is why I like to say is to write your mission, to put words to it. Not purpose. Purpose is like a steak knife. A steak knife has its purpose. Its purpose is to cut steak. Once that's done, it's cleaned, it's put in a drawer, and it's put away. That's the purpose of a steak knife. Mission is different. Mission is like a Swiss Army knife. The mission, so to speak, of a Swiss Army knife is to help a person survive any given situation. its mission is never complete. Its mission is never over. Its mission also changes. The manifestation, of its mission changes. It's constant, but its manifestation, its flavor can change. It is always ongoing. That's the difference between meaning, mission, and purpose. I'm not talking about purpose. To write out your mission, all you need to do is to sit down and write out your mission. It is not something that can be done once or twice or over a 2 or 3 month period. You write your mission for the rest of your life. Because mission, it changes. It doesn't change, its manifestation, its flavor has a different manifestation. Because as we go through, for example, ashrams, from brahmacharya to grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, as we go through different stages of life, different situations in life, the mission stays the same. But how we live that mission at a particular stage of life may change. That's why mission, writing our mission and being in connection with our mission is a lifelong practice. It is not something we do, we write it and we stick it on the corkboard in our office. Mission, constantly reconnecting, constantly validating our mission. Because as we go through court cases, as we go through dealing with the demons of our childhood, as we go through divorce, as we go through marriages, as we go through wonderful winter and summer, as Krishna is talking about, as we go through all these things, the one thing that remains constant is our mission. It will have a different manifestation, different flavor as we go through all these things, but it remains the same. Then we learn the practice of fear setting, so that when something comes our way, a court case comes our way, a demon from our childhood comes our way, we can confront it without being numbed and incapacitated. That is tolerance. That's enough for today. Hari Hari.